Okay, let's continue our discussion on interest. The next concepts that we need to discuss are the nominal rate of interest and the effective rate of interest. So nominal rate of interest specifies the rate of interest and a number of interest periods in 1 year. So it's a formula to solve for the interest rate. I okay, interest rate of interest per interest period I here is equivalent to R, which is the nominal rate of interest, and M is the number of compounding periods per year. So we have this term compounding, number of compounding per year. For example, we have I think ay meron pala example sa module ninyo. For example, we have an interest of 8%. So interest natin, nominal rate of interest of 8% compounded quarterly. Then the interest is equal to 8% over 4. So that is, the interest then is equal to 2%. Kapag compounded quarterly, 2%. So pag sinabing quarterly, in here we are speaking about 1 year. 1 year. So pag sinabing quarterly, 4 times a year. Compounded siya 4 times a year. So divide natin siya ng 4. Pag sinabing, kapag semi-annual naman, semi-annually, from the word semi means 2. That means I is equal to 8% divided by 2, which is 4%. No. So that is how we solve for I given the nominal rate of interest and given yung number of compounding per year. Okay? So ano ba yung let's say for example, meron pwede ring monthly. Kapag monthly naman, so there are 12 months in 1 year. So this would be 12. Ano po ba? Annually, quarterly, semi-annually. There might be other terms that will come out later on. So we will just use those terms later on sa succeeding problems. Okay? So that's it. That's how we solve, or that is nominal rate of interest, and that's how we solve for the interest per interest period. Rate of interest per interest period. Okay, so the period would be quarterly, putting semi-annual, monthly. Yeah. And then effective rate of interest. The effective rate of interest is the actual or exact rate of interest on the principal during 1 year. So this is 1 year. Yan yung actual. Okay, so for example, kapag compounded quarterly yung interest natin, ano yung exact or actual effective rate of interest? Now, since we have defined before na kapag nasa compound interest tayo, kino-compute natin yung interest based on the preceding principal or rate of interest or interest period. So nag-i-increase yan yung principal natin per interest period. Okay? So yung nominal rate of interest natin is actually yung effective rate of interest is actually larger than the nominal rate of interest if it is compounded in a certain period within a year. Kung compounded, pag mas marami yung compounding, edi mas malaki yung effective rate of interest nyo later on. Now, may example, there's an example sa module natin. Let's say for example, mag-invest tayo ng 1 peso at a nominal rate of 15%. So ang principal natin is 1 peso. The nominal rate of interest natin is 15%. So ilang years ito? 1 year lang siya. So N is 1 year. Okay. Then we compute for the future worth in 1 year. F is equal to 1 times 1. Then we're going to divide, since compounded siya quarterly. So compounded quarterly. So this is compounded 15% compounded quarterly. I-divide natin yan into 4. So yung interest natin, yung nominal rate natin na 15%, so i-divide natin yan into 4 since compounded siya quarterly. And then yung n natin dito, number of compounding or number of ano yung n natin dito? Tama. Okay, would be 4. So since 1 year compounded siya quarterly, so ibig sabihin n natin is equal to 4, or this is actually equal to, yeah, it's actually equal to 4. So F is equal to 1.1586. Kung 1 year yan, kapag sinabi sa problem na hindi siya compounded annually or hindi siya compounded quarterly or semi-annually, ibig sabihin automatic compounded siya annually. So n mo dito is 1. Kapag compounded annually, that's 1. Kapag compounded quarterly, it should be 4. So depende, since 1 year naman yan. Okay, so the interest then, so the interest earned in 1 year compounded quarterly is 0.1586, which means that the effective rate of interest, the actual interest, is equal to 15.86%. So since ito yung na-earn niya, yung 1 peso ko, ang na-earn niya is 0.1586 times 100% yan. Ang actual interest natin, or we call it the effective rate of interest, is 15.86%. Since computed yung future worth natin, so base yan, yung bawa quarterly siya, so at the end of the first quarter, yung principal yung principal niya sa pag-compute for the second quarter is yung principal na na-earn, yung principal plus yung interest from the first quarter. So nag-i-increase yung amount or yung value ng principal per compounding. Ayan. So the actual or the effective rate of interest is 15.86%. So that's how we solve for the effective rate of interest. So the effective rate is equal to, this is how we solve for the effective rate. So 1 plus I, so raised to m minus 1. Okay? So m here is the number of compounding. So that is nominal rate and effective rate of interest. Okay? So I hope na intindihan natin yung nominal rate of interest. Yan yung interest per year. So kinukuha natin yung interest niya ay depende sa number of compounding. Okay, kung compounded quarterly, dinidivide natin yung nominal rate to 4. Kapag compounded Semi-annually, dinidivide natin yung nominal rate sa 2. Pag compounded monthly, then dinidivide natin yung nominal rate sa 12, and so on. Then the effective rate and yung actual interest, which is dependent on the number of compounding. Pag mas marami yung compounding, then mas marami actual or effective rate of interest, mas malaki. Okay. So that's it. Okay, let's proceed to the illustrative problems. Problem number 1. Number 1 is similar to problem number 1 sa previous topic natin, simple interest. We have solved number 1 in terms of simple interest, but this time we solve it in terms of compound interest. And let's try to compare the values later on. Suppose you deposit 1,000 pesos in a bank savings account that pays interest at a rate of 8% per year. Assume that you don't withdraw the interest earned at the end of each period or every year. Hindi mo i-withdraw yung interest per year, so nag-accumulate siya. Okay, but instead let accumulate. How much would you have at the end of year 3 with compound interest? So the problem is asking us the future worth of the initial or the principal na 1,000 pesos at the end of 3 years, okay, with 8% interest rate per year. So hindi niya sinabi per year pala, so compounded annually siya. So madali lang. So the future worth is equal to F is equal to our principal is 1,000. 1 plus, we have an interest in decimal form, 0.08 raised to n. N is 3. So the future worth is equal to freak. I'm sorry, I only had, I think, 2 hours sleep. The 1,259.712. So that's the future worth of yung magkano yung sa simple interest. Kaya ito compare natin dun sa may simple interest. 1,240 lang sa simple interest. Ito 1,259. Mas malaki kapag compounded interest. Okay, so yan, number 1. And then problem number 2, may 30 minutes na pala. So the rest of the problems will be solved na lang on a separate video. Okay, so see you sa next video.